Here we have secant squared of theta minus 1 over secant squared of theta, and that is equal to sine squared of theta, and we need to verify this. I'm going to do this one a couple of different ways because you can. And I want you to be able to see the two different ways. If you want to give this one a try, knowing that there's two different ways that I'm going to show you, I would do that. I would try and then come back to the video and watch how I'm going to show you what I've done. First thing I see is secant squared minus 1. Well, 1 plus tangent squared of theta equals secant squared of theta. If I subtract 1 from both sides, tangent squared of theta is equal to secant squared of theta minus 1. So I'm going to replace secant squared of theta minus 1 with tangent squared of theta. I'm going to erase that because I'm going to need that right hand side in a little bit. Divided by secant squared of theta, and that's equal to sine squared of theta. Step 2, I'm going to separate out this fraction to make it multiplication. Tangent squared of theta times 1 over secant squared of theta. And again, that equals sine squared of theta. I'm showing you this way because it's important for you to see that we can separate out a fraction into a multiplication of two factors. Tangent squared is sine squared of theta over cosine squared of theta. And 1 over secant squared is cosine squared of theta. And that needs to equal sine squared of theta. The cosine squareds are going to cancel out, and my fourth step will be sine squared of theta equals sine squared of theta. The left-hand side is identical to the right-hand side. There is another way that we can do this problem. You can also take secant squared of theta minus 1 over secant squared of theta, and you can break it up into two terms. Because you have a monomial denominator, I'm going to change this color so that you can see this is going to be blue. Okay, so because you have a monomial denominator, you can make that denominator go with each term in the numerator. And then secant squared over secant squared is 1, and 1 over secant squared of theta is cosine squared of theta, and 1 minus cosine squared of theta is a Pythagorean identity. It is sine squared of theta. So the left-hand side looks exactly like the right-hand side.